Commander Du-hyun sat in his office aboard the Galactic Military Council's main station. His blue skin glowed under the soft light as he read the report on his screen for the 5th time. He could not believe what he was seeing. The exploration fleet had found another intelligent species, but this one was different from all others they had met before. "This cannot be right," he said to himself, touching the screen to zoom in on the images of the creatures called humans. They looked so soft, with no protective scales or extra limbs. They only had 2 eyes, and their skin seemed weak and easily damaged. How had they even survived to build a civilization? The door to his office opened with a quiet hiss. Lieutenant Jae-yun walked in, carrying more data about the newly discovered Earth. Her silver uniform showed her rank as the head of biological research. "Commander, I have finished the basic analysis of their planet," she said, placing a data tablet on his desk. "But some of these numbers seem strange." Do-hyun picked up the tablet and began reading. His eyes grew wider with each new detail. Their planet's gravity is much stronger than standard, and they live there naturally. "Yes, Commander. The gravity on Earth is about 1.4 times our standard. Most species we know would have trouble even standing there for long periods." Do-hyun laughed, a sound that echoed off the metal walls of his office. "And yet look at them. They appear so weak. Their bodies have no natural armor, no enhanced muscle structure we can see. They must be one of the weakest species we have ever found." Jae-yun frowned slightly. "Sir, maybe we should study them more before making any judgments. Their historical records show they have fought many wars among themselves. They might be more capable than they appear." "Wars with primitive weapons," Do-hyun said, waving his hand dismissively. "They have only recently discovered space travel. Their ships are slow and basic. Their weapons use simple chemical reactions." He stood up and walked to the large window that looked out into space. The stars twinkled beyond the glass, and he could see other ships moving between the station's many docking bays. "No, Lieutenant, I think this is a perfect opportunity to test our new evaluation system," he said, turning back to face Jae-yun. "We will send a mock invasion fleet. Nothing serious, just enough ships to look threatening. We'll record how they react to a superior force. It will help us understand their military capabilities." "Sir, the Council might not approve of such an action," Jae-yun said carefully. "We usually observe new species for at least a full cycle before any contact." "The Council will agree when they see my report," Do-hyun said confidently. "These humans seem peaceful most of the time. They spent more energy fighting among themselves than preparing for space warfare. A small show of force will probably make them surrender immediately. It will be the fastest evaluation we have ever done." Jae-yun wanted to argue more, but she knew that look in her commander's eyes. He had already made up his mind. She gathered her data tablets and walked toward the door, stopping for a moment before leaving. "Commander, there is one more thing," she said. "Their historical records show something interesting. Humans have a habit of becoming extremely dangerous when threatened. Maybe we should." "Thank you, Lieutenant," Do-hyun interrupted. "You can add that note to your final report, but I have already decided. I will send my recommendation to the Council today." After Jae-yun left, Do-hyun began preparing his report. He felt proud of his efficient decision. In his mind, he was already thinking about how quickly they could complete this evaluation. He had no way of knowing that his simple plan would soon become one of the biggest mistakes in galactic military history. As he worked, the image of Earth spun slowly on his screen. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space, giving no hint of the surprising capabilities of its inhabitants. The humans, with their seemingly weak bodies and simple technology, were about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Lieutenant Jae-yun could not sleep. The lights in her research lab were dim, but the screens around her glowed brightly with information about Earth and its people. She had been studying human history for 3 days straight, and what she found worried her deeply. "Computer, show me the human combat training video again," she said quietly. The screen in front of her displayed soldiers running with heavy backpacks, climbing ropes, and lifting weights. What caught her attention was how they trained in different places, in hot deserts, cold mountains, and deep forests. They adapt to everything, she muttered to herself. No other species we know can live in so many different conditions. The door opened, and her assistant, Officer Daho, entered with fresh data tablets. "Lieutenant, I found something interesting in their entertainment records," he said, placing the tablets on her desk. "Humans make many stories about fighting alien invaders. And in these stories, they usually win." Jai-yun picked up a tablet and started reading. "They imagine battles they haven't even fought yet," she said with surprise. "They think about different ways they might be attacked and plan how to respond. This is not normal for a young species." She stood up and walked to the large screen on the wall, where a map of Earth was displayed. "Look at these numbers, Daho. Their muscles are denser than ours because of their high gravity. Their bones are stronger. They can run for hours without stopping. And when their adrenaline rises—" "What is adrenaline?" Daho asked, looking confused. "It's a chemical their bodies produce when they are in danger," Jai-yun explained. "It makes them stronger and faster. They can lift heavy objects that would normally be impossible for them to move. They can ignore pain and keep fighting even when injured." She touched the screen, bringing up more data. "And there's something else. In their history, whenever a stronger force attacked them, they didn't give up. They found new ways to fight. They made new weapons. They worked together against common enemies." Daho looked worried. "Should we tell Commander Do-hyun about this?" Jai-yun shook her head. "I already tried. He won't listen. He only sees their simple technology and thinks they are weak. He doesn't understand what their gravity means." She brought up a simulation on the main screen. It showed how human muscles and bones would work in standard galactic gravity, which was weaker than Earth's gravity. "In our gravity, they will be much stronger than they are on Earth," she explained. "It's like, imagine taking a heavy weight off your body that you've carried all your life. Suddenly, you can jump higher, run faster, hit harder." "The mock invasion fleet," Daho started to say. "Yes," Jai-yun interrupted. "They will be going into a fight they don't understand. Our ships are better, but our soldiers—" She paused, thinking about the consequences. "If there is actual combat, our soldiers will be facing enemies who are naturally stronger than us, with better endurance, and who are used to fighting in worse conditions." She gathered her research data and headed for the door. "I'm going to try one more time to warn the commander. The council meets tomorrow to approve the mock invasion plan. Maybe if I show them this new data." But as she walked through the quiet halls of the station, Jai-yun knew it would probably be useless. The military leaders were too proud, too sure of their technological superiority. They would have to learn about human capabilities the hard way. In her mind, she could already see how it would go wrong. The humans wouldn't panic when they saw the alien ships. They had been imagining this moment for generations. They would be ready, and they would be much stronger than anyone expected. Captain Ta-won stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking at the blue planet through the main view screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance. His fleet of 50 ships had just arrived at the edge of the solar system, hidden behind one of the gas giants the humans called Jupiter. "All ships report ready, Captain," his first officer said from her station. "We can begin the operation whenever you give the order." Ta-won smiled, showing his pointed teeth. This would be the easiest mission of his career. The plan was simple. Appear suddenly over Earth's major cities, display their superior technology, and record how the humans reacted. They would not fire any actual weapons. The sight of advanced alien ships would be enough to test human military response. "Send the signal to all ships," he ordered. "We will appear over their cities in exactly 1 hour. Remember, this is only a show of force. No actual combat is authorized." As the fleet moved toward Earth, Ta-won reviewed the mission data one last time. The humans had primitive radar systems that could not detect his ships. Their weapons used simple chemical explosions. Their aircraft still relied on burning fuel for power. It seemed almost unfair to frighten them with such an advanced fleet. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "we are detecting increased radio signals from the planet. They might have spotted us." "Impossible," Taiwan replied. "Our stealth systems are far beyond their technology. They cannot see us yet." But as they got closer to Earth, more strange things began to happen. Several human satellites changed their positions. Radio signals between military bases increased, and their telescopes, simple devices using curved glass, were all pointing toward the fleet's position. "Captain," his communications officer said with concern in her voice, "we are receiving a message from Earth." Taiwan nearly fell out of his chair in surprise. "What? How can they transmit to us? We haven't given them our communication frequencies." The message played through the bridge speakers. "Attention unknown vessels. This is Earth Combined Defense Command. We have tracked your approach from the Kuiper Belt. State your intentions immediately, or we will consider this an hostile act." The bridge crew looked at each other in confusion. This was not how primitive species were supposed to react. Where was the panic? Where was the fear? The humans sounded calm, professional, and worst of all, prepared. "They are deploying their aircraft," the sensor officer reported. "Military bases around the planet are becoming active. Their missile systems are." "Sir, their missiles are already targeting our ships." Taiwan felt his confidence beginning to fade. The humans had not only detected them early, but had been quietly preparing their defenses. His fleet was supposed to surprise them, but somehow they had lost the advantage of surprise. "Begin the display anyway," he ordered, trying to sound confident. "Move into position above their major cities. Let them see our true power." The fleet split into groups and headed toward different cities on Earth. But as they entered the atmosphere, something else unexpected happened. The human aircraft were already waiting for them, and these aircraft moved in ways that should have been impossible for such primitive technology. "Sir," his tactical officer shouted, "the human fighters. They're not running away. They're moving to attack positions." Taiwan watched in disbelief as swarms of human aircraft took up battle formations around his ships. The humans had not panicked. They had not surrendered. Instead, they had prepared for a fight, acting as if they had been expecting this moment for years. As he stared at the tactical display, Taiwan remembered something he had ignored in the mission briefing. A small note from Lieutenant Jian about human entertainment. "They have made thousands of stories about fighting alien invaders. In their minds, they have already fought this battle many times." Now he was about to learn if those practice battles had taught them anything useful. Commander Herin watched in disbelief as another one of her ships reported engine failure. The human fighters were not just defending. They were winning. Her squadron had entered Earth's atmosphere over a region called North America, expecting to put on an impressive display of power. Instead, they were the ones being impressed. "How are they flying like that?" she demanded, watching the tactical screen. The human aircraft moved with incredible speed and precision. Their pilots pulled turns that should have knocked them unconscious. They flew patterns that seemed impossible for such basic machines. "Commander," her science officer reported, "I think I understand what's happening. These humans, they're used to much stronger gravity than ours. Here in their atmosphere, their bodies can handle more stress than our pilots." Herin's eyes widened as she finally understood. The humans weren't using better technology. They were simply tougher than her crew. Years of living under higher gravity had made them naturally stronger, faster, and more resistant to the forces of flight combat. A loud alarm filled the bridge. 3 more human fighters approaching from below. The tactical officer shouted, "They're using some kind of primitive projectile weapons." Herin grabbed her command chair as the ship shook. The humans were firing simple metal bullets at them, a weapon so basic that they hadn't even bothered to defend against it. But the bullets were being fired with such force and aimed so precisely that they were damaging important external sensors. "Send the signal to retreat," she ordered. "All ships, climb back to high orbit. We need to regroup." But the humans had expected this too. As her ships tried to escape Earth's atmosphere, more fighters rose to meet them. These were different, larger aircraft that could fly at higher altitudes. They carried bigger weapons, and their pilots showed no fear of the alien ships. "Commander," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a message from Captain Tawan's ship. His engines are not working. The humans have somehow. They found a way to disable our power systems." Haren felt a chill run through her body. This was supposed to be a simple show of force, but it had turned into something else. The humans weren't behaving like a primitive species at all. They were fighting like veterans who had trained for this exact moment. Through her viewing screen, she saw something that made her freeze. Human soldiers were approaching Tawan's disabled ship. They moved with incredible speed and strength in their primitive spacesuits. The standard gravity inside the alien ships, which was weaker than Earth's gravity, gave the humans a huge advantage. They were practically bouncing off the walls, much stronger than they would be on their own planet. "All ships, emergency retreat," she ordered. "We must warn the Council. The humans, they're not what we thought they were." As her remaining ships fled back to space, Haren began preparing her report. How could she explain this disaster? They had completely underestimated the humans. Instead of panicking at the sight of advanced alien ships, the humans had responded with careful, practiced moves. They had turned the invaders' own technology against them. In her mind, she could already hear the angry questions from the Council. Why hadn't they studied the effects of Earth's gravity more carefully? Why had they assumed that simple technology meant simple soldiers? Why hadn't they listened to Lieutenant Jayun's warnings? The humans had taught them a hard lesson. Never judge a species only by their technology. Sometimes, the greatest strength comes from the body and mind, not from advanced machines. Major Yun Seo stood in the security center of her disabled ship, watching the internal cameras with growing fear. The human soldiers were moving through the corridors with incredible speed. In the ship's standard gravity, which was much weaker than Earth's gravity, the humans seemed to have almost superhuman strength. "Close all internal doors," she ordered through her communication device. But it was too late. The humans had already figured out how to override the ship's basic systems. They moved like they had trained for this moment their entire lives. Through the camera feeds, she watched as two human soldiers easily lifted a metal door that would normally require a mechanical lift to move. Their muscles, developed under Earth's stronger gravity, made them extraordinarily strong in the ship's weaker gravity environment. "Major," one of her security officers reported, "the humans are not killing anyone. They are using some kind of sleep gas. They want prisoners, not casualties." This surprised Yun Seo. The humans were showing mercy, even though they thought they were being invaded. This was not the behavior of a primitive species. It showed planning, discipline, and most surprisingly, honor. The ship shook as more human soldiers entered through the emergency airlocks. Their primitive-looking spacesuits had proved to be remarkably effective. The humans had even brought tools specifically designed to connect with and override alien technology. How did they prepare for this? Yun Seo wondered aloud. It's like they knew exactly what to do. Her answer came from an unexpected source. One of the captured human soldiers, who had removed his helmet, was speaking to a frightened alien crew member. "Don't worry," the human said in a calm voice. "We've been preparing for first contact for over 100 years. We've made thousands of movies about it. We've written books about it. We've trained for every possibility." Yun Seo couldn't believe what she was hearing. The humans had used their entertainment, their stories and movies, as training programs. They had imagined this scenario countless times, thinking through every possible way an alien invasion might happen. What the aliens had thought would be a simple show of force had turned into a perfectly executed counterattack. More cameras showed human soldiers easily carrying injured alien crew members to safety. In the ship's medical bay, Human doctors were already working to help the aliens who had been hurt during the brief battle. They had come prepared not just for fighting, but for helping their defeated enemies. Major, her second-in-command, called out, "The humans have reached the bridge. They're asking for our surrender. They promise no one will be harmed." Yun Seo looked at her remaining crew. They were all watching her, waiting for her decision. Through the bridge windows, she could see more human ships approaching. They had managed to copy some of the alien technology already, adding it to their own ships in ways the aliens had never considered. "Send the surrender signal," she ordered, "and send a message to any of our ships that can still receive it. Tell them the humans are stronger than we thought. Not just in their bodies, but in their minds and their hearts too." As she waited for the human soldiers to reach the bridge, Yun Seo thought about how wrong they had been. The humans weren't primitive at all. They had simply developed in a different way, forced by their high-gravity world to become naturally stronger. Their simple technology had hidden their true strength, the strength of a species that had evolved to overcome every challenge their harsh world had given them. Science Officer Minji stood before the emergency meeting of the Galactic Military Council. Her hands trembled slightly as she prepared to explain what had happened during the failed mock invasion of Earth. The room was filled with high-ranking officers from various alien species, all waiting to understand how their advanced fleet had been defeated so easily. "The answer is simple physics," Minji began, activating the main display screen. "We made a fundamental error in our assessment of human capabilities. We failed to account for the effects of their planet's gravity on their physical development." The screen showed a comparison between standard galactic gravity and Earth's gravity. Minji pointed to the numbers that now seemed so obvious. Humans evolved on a planet with gravity 1.4 times stronger than our standard. Every day of their lives, they carry more weight than most species in the galaxy. Their muscles and bones developed to handle this constant pressure. She showed videos from the captured ship records. The council members watched in silence as human soldiers moved through the corridors with remarkable speed and strength. In our standard gravity environment, humans can lift nearly twice their normal weight. They can jump higher, move faster, and endure more physical stress than most species. But their technology is so primitive, one council member objected. Their ships still use chemical fuel. Their weapons are basic. Minji nodded. Yes, their technology is less advanced, but they compensated for this with physical advantages and careful preparation. They had already strengthened their ships with better materials. They had developed special tools to disable our engines. They had even trained their soldiers to fight in lower gravity. The display showed more footage, this time of human doctors treating injured alien crew members. They also showed remarkable adaptability. Within hours of capturing our ships, they began understanding and using our technology. Their minds are as flexible as their bodies. Minji then revealed her most surprising discovery. "We found something interesting in their computer systems. Humans have been making stories about alien invasions for over 100 years. They called it science fiction. Through these stories, they imagined thousands of ways that aliens might attack them. They thought about how to defend against advanced technology. They planned for every possibility." The council chamber filled with concerned murmurs. One of the senior members spoke up. "Are you saying they were ready for us because they had imagined this scenario in their entertainment?" "Exactly," Minji confirmed. "Their stories helped them prepare mentally. When our ships appeared, they didn't panic. They had already thought about what to do. They had already planned how to fight against more advanced aliens." She showed one final set of data. "And there's more. Because of their high-gravity environment, human pilots can handle much stronger flight maneuvers than our pilots. Their bodies can endure more stress during combat. Even their primitive aircraft became deadly weapons because their pilots could push them to extreme limits." The council members looked at each other with growing concern. What they had thought would be a simple demonstration of power had revealed a species with remarkable natural advantages and unexpected preparation. In conclusion, Minji said, "We must completely change how we evaluate new species. We can no longer judge them only by their technology level. We must consider their planet's physical conditions and how those conditions have shaped their development. The humans taught us this lesson the hard way." As she finished her presentation, Minji couldn't help but think about Lieutenant Jai-yun's early warnings. If they had listened to her, if they had studied the humans more carefully, they might have avoided this embarrassing defeat. Now, the galaxy would have to adjust to a new reality, one where a seemingly primitive species had proved to be far more capable than anyone had imagined. Ambassador Sung Ho walked into the United Nations building in New York City. The tall glass structure reflected the morning sunlight as human security forces stood guard. They had treated him with perfect courtesy, even though his people had attempted to invade their planet just 1 week ago. The human diplomatic team waited in a large conference room. They sat around a polished wooden table, with flags of different nations displayed behind them. Sung Ho noticed that they had provided him with a special chair designed to support his alien body structure. This small gesture of consideration impressed him. "Welcome, Ambassador," the head of the human diplomatic team said. "We appreciate your willingness to meet with us directly. We believe open dialogue is the best way forward from this unfortunate incident." Sung Ho placed his data tablet on the table. "Thank you for receiving me. I must first extend my government's formal apology for our actions. We made serious errors in judgment." The humans nodded, but their faces remained serious. One of them, a woman in a blue suit, spoke up. "We understand this was meant to be a test of our capabilities. What we don't understand is why you chose such a dangerous method of first contact." "That is a fair question," Sung Ho replied. He felt ashamed as he explained. "We believed your species was primitive because of your technology level. We thought a show of force would provide quick data about your military response capabilities. We were completely wrong." To his surprise, some of the humans smiled. "You're not the first to underestimate humans," another diplomat said. "Even we sometimes underestimate ourselves. But we have learned through our history that appearance and technology level don't always indicate true capability." Sung Ho activated his tablet, displaying the terms his government had authorized him to offer. "We wish to make amends. We propose a complete exchange of scientific information. We will share our advanced technology, and in return, we hope to learn from you, especially about human adaptability and training methods." The human delegates discussed among themselves briefly. Their leader turned back to Sung Ho. "We accept the principle of technological exchange. However, we have some conditions. First, we want full disclosure about why we were chosen for this test. Second, we want guarantees that no other emerging civilization will be subjected to similar mock invasions." "Those terms are reasonable," Sung Ho agreed. "We have already begun changing our first contact protocols. Your response to our fleet has taught us valuable lessons about judging other species." As they worked through the details of the agreement, Sung Ho observed how the humans operated. They were thorough but fair. They showed no desire for revenge, only a wish to prevent similar incidents in the future. Their strength was not just in their bodies or their technology, but in their capacity for both firmness and forgiveness. By the end of the day, they had drafted a comprehensive peace and cooperation agreement. The humans had even invited the Galactic Council to establish an embassy on Earth. They wanted to join the galactic community, not as a primitive species to be tested, but as equals who had earned respect through their actions. As Sung Ho prepared to leave, one of the human diplomats approached him privately. "You know," the human said with a slight smile, "we have thousands of stories about first contact with aliens. In many of them, we end up becoming friends after initial conflicts. Perhaps those stories weren't just entertainment. They were practice for this very moment." Sarah walked into the dark forest. The trees were tall and the branches reached out like long arms. She held her flashlight tightly. Its beam of light shone on the path in front of her. Sarah shivered. The night air felt cold on her skin. Strange noises came from deep in the forest. Twigs snapped under her feet with each step. An owl hooted overhead. Its sudden cry made Sarah jump. Far away, a wolf let out a long, sad howl. The eerie sound echoed through the trees. Sarah's heart beat faster. She took a deep breath to stay brave. The dirt path curved and twisted. It led Sarah deeper into the forest. The flashlight showed the way. But the batteries were getting weak. The light looked dimmer with each passing minute. Soon the forest would be pitch black. Sarah had to find the old cabin fast. She quickened her pace, almost running now. Branches scratched at her arms as she passed. Her lungs burned from breathing the cold air. Just as the light began to fade, Sarah saw something. Up ahead, moonlight outlined the shape of a small building. She had found the cabin at last. Sarah climbed the creaky wooden steps. With a trembling hand, she knocked on the door. She heard slow footsteps approach from inside. The door swung open with a long creak. In the doorway stood. This story segment continues building suspense about what Sarah will find at the cabin. It uses simple vocabulary and short sentences to create an eerie mood and describes Sarah's rising anxiety as she goes deeper into the dark forest. Key details like the dimming flashlight, spooky animal sounds, and the cabin finally coming into view keep the action moving forward. The cliffhanger ending sets up the next part of the story. Please let me know if you would like me to continue with part 9 of this story.